I mentioned at the start of the evening that Headspace have a true remit, I should say, around early intervention. But I think for anyone that has experienced this or had a friend, colleague, relative that has probably noticed some of the challenges that we have within, I suppose, our current medical system, and that's somewhat made more complex by the fact that we sit on a border. And I probably want to pose to our panel some of the challenges that they've seen, and also probably some of the experiences that they've had navigating through that process. So I might perhaps flip to you first, Trace, perhaps give us a bit of an intro as to the management of sort of acute and chronic care and how that sits, and then flip to our panel as to sort of probably helping to navigate through that process, if I can.
Absolutely. I just want to say, what a great panel and discussion that was. I think you've touched on, different types of anxiety, but also some of the different ways that it is expressed. And I think that really plays a part in then how it's treated. One of the things that really interests me is that, sometimes it'll be the physical symptoms that people first notice. And often they'll go to a GP and, they'll get some blood tests and different, diagnostic sort of things happening to try and rule out any sort of health-related things. And then sometimes that will then lead to, this being in this space of, okay, there's something else happening. And it might be an acute event that happens where someone might have a panic attack, which we know is a type of anxiety that happens a lot. And people will present to the emergency department or, a GP if they can get into a GP, and, be like, I think I'm actually dying. And it really does feel like that for people. So anyone who's had a panic attack knows that when you don't have an awareness of what those symptoms are, it's really scary and confronting. So that will sometimes be the acute path that people will take, and there'll be someone within the ED department that might identify, might ask the right questions. And I really am pleased to see that we're actually starting to see an increase in people being able to identify mental health concerns and mental ill health, and they'll ask the right question, and it'll become apparent that this is a panic attack, and that there's other things that are needed rather than, medical intervention. Chronic management is often, that the longer term counselling. Again, in Echuca and Campaspe, we're struggling with mental health services, but I know that there are a lot of people working behind the scenes to try and make a difference there. We have some really great private practitioners that can really support ongoing counselling, but there are wait lists, and so thankfully we have spaces like Headspace and our mental health team at Echuca Regional Health that have systems in place that are trying to get people in to be managed earlier, with that emphasis that the sooner that we can get in, the more we can prevent people going on to have lifelong impacts. So I think that's really important, and I think that I know that there'll be people on the panel that have had experiences, either the medical side or counselling, that they might like to speak to as well.
Ernie, I might throw this to you first. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm doing it intentionally because you've worn a number of different hats within our community, and I suppose you just want to touch on, I think of the more officious referral process, which is normally GP, then on to other care. But given that you've been in a lot of other differing roles, can you talk about maybe using that as a referral pathway for persons?
Thanks, Clint. And Dimity and I have a trade secret. We have done a lot of work together in the last few years, and I admire her immensely. She's one of the most talented and courageous young people I know. But my own experience is different, but is an experience in the same way, and that leads probably through the mental health system locally that I experienced, and that was an amazing reflection, really, but at the time, really an unknown journey, and something I never ever thought I'd have to encounter. Some very special people in the room that understand how that panned out, but I think the curiosity around where to start, and often I hear someone say, seek help from a GP, as most of us know, that is really, really difficult. Secondly, to get a GP that is accredited or knowledgeable enough to, which I was lucky enough to get on the day, a mental health plan, is extremely difficult. And then we swing into potential medications or following the right advice. But I also had an experience where, not at my best, I struggled, because we live in New South Wales, to access assistance in Victoria. and that's nothing to do with anyone personally in the community, it's the system. And that resulted in my experience and my ability being phone calls. And at the time, that wasn't what I needed. So my concern as me as an adult and the support around me was extremely helpful. My thoughts go to those people that don't have that and they're at home on a phone by themselves, having the courage to continue that sort of journey. So yeah, it's got its issues, definitely that cross-border, but that was just my experience.
Thinking of and knowing what you know now, I'll probably pose this to Tracy and to Ben, is there a way around that at the moment or not?
I think being based in Moama, I think we can always present at Echuca Regional Health, and the team there will give you the service you need at that time. However, it's the ongoing care that's difficult, and there are lots of partnerships happening between, Deniliquin mental health services and those based here. However, it is a difficult thing because it's two very separate legislative areas, and so I know there's people that are really passionate about that, and there are things that are happening, and there's been huge improvements over the years, which is a really good thing too. But absolutely take your point, Bennett. It's hard at times, and it takes a resourced person to be able to navigate that. So being able to, one of the things I hope that comes from tonight is that even if a barrier is faced, that you feel able to reach out to a service, because I've not been in a mental health service where there aren't incredibly passionate people who want to help. And if you come across one of the few that aren't willing to help, keep trying. That would be my main message, is that there are people who will try to find a way for you if you can reach out. And it's unfortunate that that has to be the message sometimes, but it is an important one, I think.
Beck, I just want to throw a quick query down your way. Now, we spoke at the start about using support networks within the workplace. Can you just touch on that as a point of or a pathway to referral, Nellie?
So, I've had my own mental journey, and exactly what we were discussing. I was one of those fight or flights who'd turn up at emergency 10 times within 3 weeks. I always thought that was it, I was dying. And every time I got let go with no assistance, it was the 10th time that the doctor, an intern doctor, come in and sat down with me and finally explained it to me, what she thought. And actually at that time gave me a mental health nurse, which in the middle of the discussion with her, I had a full-blown panic attack, and she was able to talk me down. And then I understood what I was going through, because before I thought I was dying and no one was listening to me. So what that's meant now in my workplace is that I've made sure that every program is available. We provide, when the guys come to you, we've had talks from Beyond Blue. There's a tradie lady Pink Friday Day. There's all these avenues that we can actually be there and be able to say, not are you okay once a day, every day. So then I think business owners need to take more, not accountability, but more understanding, and provide a bit more from the work perspective, because like schools, that's where our young people are spending most of their days. So we need to be, as work owners, need to be more, we need to be more supportive. We're all out there about health and safety. Every workplace has to have a health and safety plan, but do you know what? They don't have to have a mental health plan for their workers. So I would like to see moving forward that as work owners, as business owners, that we actually put that in place. Mental health and wellbeing is the best.
Thank you so much, Beck. I think you raised some really important points, and I'm so pleased to know that there are people out there who are doing that work. You're right. People are spending as much time at work as young people are at schools and at home, so it's so important. Dorrinda, have you got something that you'd like to add around school and pathways to services? Yeah, beautiful.
Just kind of on following on from what you were saying too, it's the information sharing. Like, it's difficult because we might have a young person that's getting a mental health plan, but we're unaware. And it's being able to have those conversations to make sure that what we're saying to that young person is what their professional or their therapist is saying, because it's terrible for them if they're already having a difficult time and we're saying one thing, and someone else is telling them something else. So it's all that information sharing. It's great to have a mental health plan, but then what do you do with it? Who do you share it with? And I think there is, like you said, a lot of stigma around people not wanting to look weak or whatever it might be. That's what we have to try and say, you know, if you break your arm, everyone's aware of it and you all share it and help each other. So we need to make sure that we're doing the same with our mental health and anxiety or whatever it is that someone's happening.
I'm probably a bit old now, but so I finished, graduated. I just mean, since I've graduated high school, so I graduated in 2018 from Rochi High, we never had a mental health, first aid practitioner. There was no wellbeing coordinator. And since, I've left school, that's been established throughout Victorian schools, I think, state schools, private schools. And, when I was in school, multiple times I'd be crying in the principal's office or, and you'd try and tell that teacher, principal, oh, this is what's happening, and you'd, burst into tears, only to have them come back at you and be like, oh, well, that happened to me when I was young, or, and that sometimes it's okay to say to someone that, oh, yeah, I've experienced that too. But when a young person is very vulnerable and suffering, that's the last thing that they want to hear about, because you're telling them that your experience is insignificant. And as a young person, you need all the help, and you need a lot of attention to get through what you're going through, especially if it's the first time you've ever gone through it. And probably, also when I was in schools, had teachers come up and go, oh, I know what's happening at home. Oh, I've heard about that. And it's just are you serious? That's none of your business. It's great to see it in schools now. And in workplaces, I know here at the bowling club, they have a system, I think it's called Ben Star or something like that. So workplaces are implementing these services, and they are being proactive about it, which is really good to see. I guess it's just a lot of people they know it's there, but because of a lot of these services aren't in person, you almost think that they don't exist because you're not seeing that person. It's just a phone call, or it's an email, or it's an app. So it's almost not real to an extent. Yeah.